Welcome to Vibe Talks. Today we're taking a deep dive into quite a fascinating collection of sources. We're exploring the incredible growth of artificial intelligence and its, surprising parallels with ancient prophecies, particularly focusing on the figure of Dajjal from Islamic eschatology. Our mission today is really to unpack these connections, look at the history of intelligence technology, and try to figure out what this exponential growth means for our future. So, the material kicks off by setting a foundation, defining intelligence. Pretty straightforward. The ability to learn, reason, get knowledge, use skills to solve problems, and it really hammers home that humans are, unique. The only species to truly master this, fundamentally changing our place in nature, taking control in a way.
Yeah, and what's really striking is the journey. I mean, how long and slow it started. Our sources point out that the very first basic brains, just tiny neuron clusters, appeared in simple fat worms maybe 500 million years ago.
Or 500 million years ago. Wow.
Right, and from there, it took hundreds of millions more years for intelligence to really diversify and evolve, leading up to, us. The Homo sapiens about 250,000 years ago, with these big, complex brains capable of teamwork, complex thoughts, all that stuff.
And thinking about that timeline, our progress at first was just incredibly slow. Like the agricultural revolution, settling down, farming, that was huge around 12,000 years ago. But then, get this, it took another 6,000 years for the next really big leap, the invention of the wheel.
6,000 years, it's hard to even grasp.
Right, 6 millennia between those foundational breakthroughs. Then, another 2,500 years or so for the Iron Age, and another 2,500 for the next major shift. These immense gaps. It's just astonishing when you look back.
And this is where the sources kind of pivot, showing how radically that pace is accelerated. They highlight modern science, which really only got going about 200 years ago. Before that, progress was, slower, maybe more accidental. But science gave us a method, a way to speed up discovery itself.
Yeah, like the printing press, steam engine, telephone, light bulb.
Yeah.
They started coming faster once science kicked in.
Exactly. And then, boom, just 35 years ago, the internet completely changed the game for information, communication, everything. What's really eye-opening, according to the source, is that something like 99.99% of all the technology we rely on today, smartphones, medicine, everything, was invented in just the last 250 years.
Which is less than 1% of our entire history as a species?
Precisely. It's all happened in this tiny, recent sliver of time, an explosion.
The source gives a really helpful analogy to grasp this exponential thing. Imagine a pond, right? And lilies are growing on it, doubling every day. On day 30, the pond is completely covered. The question is, when was it half covered?
Doubling every day. So it must be the day before, right? Day 29.
Exactly. Day 29. You have 29 days where it looks like not much is happening, maybe gradual growth. And then wham, the last day it explodes to cover everything. That's the nature of exponential growth. Slow buildup, then a sudden massive surge at the end. And the source suggests that's where we are now, particularly with AI. Which brings us to where things get really interesting. Let's look at the growth of computational power itself. That's the fuel here.
Right. The material shows this logarithmic graph, basically, a chart where each step up is 10 times bigger than the last tracking computing power per dollar over 90 years. Back in 1935, a dollar bought you, practically nothing.
Wow.
Less than 1/100,000th of a single calculation. Negligible.
Okay.
By the 90s, that jumped. 1,000 calculations per dollar. Still sounds small, maybe, but a huge leap. And today, 2025, we're talking over 1 trillion calculations for that same dollar.
1 trillion from almost zero. That's the exponential curve right there.
It's an absolutely unprecedented surge. It's what's making things possible now that were pure science fiction just decades ago.
Think about some of those early milestones. 1997, IBM's Deep Blue beats Garry Kasparov at chess. Back then, many people, even experts, thought a machine just couldn't beat a human grandmaster's intuition and creativity. But it did.
The huge moment. And that was when a dollar bought you only 1,000 calculations.
Then fast forward to 2016, AlphaGo, another AI, takes on Lee Sedol, the world champion of Go. And Go is just astronomically more complex than chess, more possible moves than atoms in the universe, basically.
Yeah, Go was seen as the pinnacle of human strategic thought, requiring deep intuition built over decades.
And AlphaGo makes this move 37, that just baffled everyone. Experts on TV were calling it a rookie mistake. Sedol himself was stunned. But it turned out to be this brilliant, unconventional move that led to his defeat. He actually retired later, saying humans couldn't compete anymore.
It was a profound moment, showing AI can not just calculate, but develop strategies beyond human comprehension. So what about right now? The source points to 2022. OpenAI's ChatGPT just explodes onto the scene. 100 million users in 2 months, faster adoption than anything before.
So it's not just the power, but the accessibility, too.
Exactly. And today, 2025, the source states that most AI chatbots are operating at like PhD levels in complex fields, math, coding, science. We've got multimodal AI now. It can see, hear, process it all, talk back to you. AI images, almost impossible to tell from photos. AI audio, it can mimic emotion, sound totally real. Even AI video has leaped forward incredibly fast. Distinguishing real from generated is getting seriously hard.
Consider this example from the source on scientific discovery. A human scientist, right, might spend their entire career mapping maybe 1 or 2 protein structures. Painstaking work.
Years of research.
But Google DeepMind's AlphaFold AI, it generated predicted 3D structures for 200 million proteins, basically all known proteins, overnight.
Wow. So it changes the job, doesn't it, from discovery to analysis?
Completely. Doctors can now focus on using that information, understanding the structures, not finding them, and it gets even wilder. The source talks about using AI to, well, talk to animals.
Seriously.
By training AI on vast amounts of animal sounds, behaviors, it starts decoding the patterns, what they might be trying to communicate. And then the flip side, encoding our words into sounds the animals might understand. They mention direct communication experiments, even with dolphins.
That's incredible. Imagine the possibilities. And we're moving past keyboards, too. The source mentions playing games, just using your thoughts. Plus, Elon Musk's Neuralink brain chips. They're already letting people who were born paralyzed play computer games. Direct brain-computer interface.
Yeah.
The source suggests this really challenges our whole idea of human superiority. Being top of creation. An individual human might be amazing at one thing, maybe two, but AI, it could potentially do the work of a painter, a scientist, a philosopher, a therapist, all at once, and maybe better than most humans in each area.
It's a fundamental shift in how we see ourselves, potentially.
A huge one.
So, where does this all lead? This is where our source material makes this really striking connection. It links these huge technological leaps to prophecies from 1400 years ago, specifically about the end of the world, and this figure, Dajjal, from Islamic eschatology, the study of end times, often equated with the Antichrist figure.
Right. The prophecies say Dajjal appears before the final day of judgment, and they mention signs leading up to it, things like division and conflict among Muslims or poor Arab shepherds competing to build super tall buildings. Things the source notes we can arguably see happening today.
Okay, those are sort of socio-political signs, but where does AI fit in?
This is where it gets uncanny, according to the source. Prophecies apparently mention a time when humans will talk to animals, understand them, which, as you just said, AI is starting to enable. They also supposedly say inanimate objects will speak, like your belt or your shoes or a stick. Now, 100 years ago, that sounds like pure fantasy, right? Objects talking. But today, our phones talk, our smart speakers talk, we see live broadcasts from objects across the world. It seems logical now.
Yeah, we take it completely for granted.
The source even pushes it further, suggesting soon, maybe even bringing the dead back to life might seem logical. It points out wealthy people already freezing their bodies, hoping for future revival tech.
Cryonics, yeah.
Then there's Dajjal being prophesied to control the weather. The source brings up cloud seeding, manipulating clouds to make rain, which is already used, especially in places like the Middle East.
Artificial rain.
Okay. And one more proxy about a colossal beast emerging from the earth. The source connects this to companies like Colossal Biosciences. Their whole mission is de-extinction, bringing back extinct animals. And they've reportedly already revived the dire wolf, extinct for 10,000 years.
Bringing back extinct megafauna. Wow, okay, so the source is laying out these parallels between ancient texts and very current cutting-edge tech. And the observation made in the material is that many of these predicted signs seem to be fulfilled already, things we see as normal parts of modern life, and those that aren't fulfilled yet. Well, given AI's trajectory, the source suggests they could become logically possible very quickly, an acceleration nobody could have imagined back then.
But it's really crucial, and the source is clear on this. AI itself is not Dajjal. Dajjal in the prophecies is described as a specific human figure, with physical traits and a specific role.
Right. So AI isn't the figure itself.
No. Instead, the source presents AI as this incredibly powerful tool, maybe a weapon, something Dajjal could use to deceive people on a massive scale. Like, imagine controlling information globally, creating deepfakes instantly, manipulating systems. AI potentially enables a level of control from one point that was never possible before, a tool for deception.
Okay, so AI as the enabler, not the entity.
That seems to be the interpretation presented.
So, looking ahead, what does this relentless march of AI mean for our immediate future? The source makes a pretty bold claim. It says in the next 5 years, we might see the equivalent of 100 years' work of development.
100 years in 5. That's almost impossible to picture, the scale of change that implies. And the material is emphatic. AI will only get better. It learns, it builds on itself. There's no going back. It won't suddenly get worse.
So what kind of changes are predicted?
Well, things like everyone having personal AI assistants doing chores, cleaning, laundry, cooking, a fundamental change to daily life. But then, more startlingly, the idea of people creating artificial versions of their brains, their bodies, living for ages, essentially digitally maintaining whatever look or age they want.
Digital immortality, sort of?
Kind of. And virtual worlds becoming potentially more appealing than the real one. People investing heavily in digital assets, things they can't physically touch but have immense value online. We might see like top fashion designers who've never actually cut fabric doing everything virtually.
The line's blurring completely. The author of our source material, they apparently state quite personally their belief that, quote, that day is not far away and that only the face reveal is left, implying we're right on the cusp.
It's a strong statement reflecting a conviction that these ancient timelines and modern tech are converging rapidly.
So, wrapping this up, what does this mean for you listening to this? How do you even begin to prepare for a future changing this fast, where technology makes it hard to know what's real and where these ancient, frankly, quite dramatic prophecies seem, according to the source, to be unfolding?
It's a lot to take in.
Definitely. The source material really urges avoiding deception, which seems key in an age of AI fakes, and acquiring both kinds of knowledge. Religious wisdom, understanding the spiritual context perhaps, and the most modern knowledge available, understanding the technology itself, to be truly prepared.
So, not rejecting one for the other, but integrating them.
That seems to be the message. A balanced perspective might be crucial to navigate, well, whatever comes next.
It really makes you ponder, doesn't it? How we even define reality anymore, or progress, when the digital and physical, the artificial and natural are merging like this. What parts of being human will remain distinct, And how do we value and protect those aspects amidst all this change? It's a deep question for all of us. That was today's Vibe Talks. Keep listening, keep thinking.